is the word. That word comes to us from the Old Testament book of Jonah. Our text for today is chapter 1. It's already been read in your hearing, but I want to lift out for special emphasis verse 17. Jonah chapter 1, verse 17. But the Lord provided a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was inside the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Let me read that one more again. But the Lord provided a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was inside the fish 3 days and 3 nights. God bless his word. And for just a few minutes today, I just want to talk with you because I know y'all got your mind on the soup. So I ain't going to hold you long today. But I want to talk today this topic, God's grace in the book of Jonah. God's grace in the book of Jonah. Part 1, when God puts his servants in jail. Part 1, when God puts his servants in jail. We talk about grace in the book of Jonah. And today, part 1, when God puts his servants in jail. No matter who you are, where you've been, or what you've done, God loves you. Today's sermon is the first of what I hope is going to be a series of sermons dealing with the grace of God in the Old Testament book of Jonah. And I'll have to thank my Wednesday Bible class for the inspiration for this sermon, the ones that I hope are going to follow. To be honest with you, they inspire me quite often. And for that, I'm quite grateful. They get me going in Bible class. And they get me going so much I have to get them back. I scare them a lot of times. But we have a good time in Bible class. The Jonah character is an interesting personality, an interesting character in Old Testament literature. He's a reluctant prophet, but it's also evident that Jonah suffers from bigotry. Now you can put a pin in that. Jonah is a prophet. Jonah is a prophet of God. Jonah is a servant of God. But Jonah is reluctant and he suffers from bigotry. Now there's controversy surrounding the Jonah story. The biggest controversy surrounding the Jonah story is the big fish or the whale story, whichever one you want to call it. But whether it's history, whether it's an allegory or a parable, we'll leave that to the scholars for further investigation and discussion. But for now, we're going to concern ourselves with the message that I think the book of Jonah holds for us. The story opens with a call from God for Jonah to go to Nineveh and preach against the wickedness of the city. God's word comes to Jonah, says to Jonah, go down to Nineveh and preach against the city because their wickedness has come up to me. Jonah didn't want to go. In fact, Jonah refused to go. And Jonah caught a ship going in the opposite direction from Nineveh. Now the question that immediately comes to my mind is this. If Jonah is God's prophet, and if Jonah receives an assignment from God, why would he be disobedient? I know that. I know a lot of us ask, why would anybody dare to disobey God? You've asked yourself that question, haven't you? in the mirror the next time you ask it. See, most often when folk ask that question, they have somebody else in mind. But you need to look in the mirror and ask, why would I disobey God? Who were these Ninevites? These people of Nineveh that Jonah was supposed to go and preach to. Well, if we look at the history, Nineveh was the capital city of Assyria. And Assyria represented the oppressive national power of that part of the world. The Jews didn't like the Assyrians. Assyria was regarded as a synonym for the worst infamies, vicious practices, blasphemy, and irreligion in the Gentile world. Jonah didn't want to go and preach to the people of Nineveh because he hated them. Jonah didn't feel that they deserved to hear any kind of word from God. He felt that the Ninevites were unworthy of God's attention and his time. Here's a question for you today. How often do we secretly want somebody to get his or her just desserts rather than experience God's grace? I think I asked y'all this a couple of weeks or so ago. Have you ever just wanted somebody to get it? I mean, you just wanted them to get it. You didn't want them to hear about the love of God and the grace. You wanted them to get it. Well, the next time you want somebody to get it, not get it, but get it, look in the mirror and say, I deserve to get it. I'm going to let that one alone. So Jonah didn't like those people. He really wanted them to get what he thought they did. You need to watch out what you think somebody else deserves. Can I get a witness yet? Watch out what you think somebody else deserves. Because just like you think I deserve it, somebody else think you deserve it. So Jonah decided, I'm going to be through in a minute here. I'm watching the clock so I can get y'all out of time. Jonah set sail. Jonah set sail for Tarshish in Spain in an effort to escape his assignment. But God had other plans. You ought to always watch out that I told y'all about but God. When you get ready to do your thing, watch out for that but God. But God will mess you up. But God will mess with your plan. But God will turn stuff all the way around. God had other plans. The story says that God, according to the story, God caused a great storm. God caused a great storm to come. God caused I lost my paper here. God caused a storm on the sea while Jonah was trying to run away. All the sailors were frightened and calling on their gods. During all of the commotion, Jonah had gone down below, fell asleep down below the deck. The other guys were wondering, how is this fella sleeping? We out here bailing water and calling on our God. They went and questioned him, and when they questioned him, he confessed that he was running away from the Lord and that they should throw him overboard if they wanted the storm to cease. But the sailors didn't want to be guilty of killing this innocent man. They tried their best to row to safety, but the storm grew worse. Finally, they gave in and threw Jonah overboard. And at that moment, the storm ceased. When they threw Jonah off the ship, the wind stopped blowing, the thunder stopped roaring. Lightning stopped flashing. The waves died down. Jonah had to feel right now that he had done a good thing. He had taken responsibility for the initiation of the storm, which had put other folk in danger. Now he was going to die for his disobedience to God's command. He had to be feeling, well, I've done what I should have done.